I'm bringing you Attack on Titan predictions. Now, my channel is a tutorial channel and I don't do anything with manga or anime, but recently I've been thinking about some of the things that have been going on with the Attack on Titan manga, and I felt like I had to share some of my predictions with YouTube, just basically to record the predictions to see if they come true, because I really think I'm going to be right on a few things. And I also think there are some things that I'm not going to be right on, and there may be some specific reasons why. So this Attack on Titan prediction set is going to be basically 10 positive predictions and then 10 negative predictions, and then prediction about the ending. Negative predictions means things that we're not going to see or things that we'll see that no one really wanted. So let's start off with the positive predictions. So my first prediction is that there are Marleyans inside of the walls, and I believe that they're the nobility, and I think that they've been there since the 145th king. I don't think that they're loyal to Marley. I think that they came inside the walls because they agreed with the 145th king. And it also could be a situation where some of the Eludians had Marleyans like loyal to them even before the Eludian Empire fell. So some people think that's where the Ackermans come from, because there's a possibility Ackermans could Marleyans who had some sort of, I don't know, maybe Titan spinal fluid was injected into them or something. We don't really know what the Ackermans are, but it's a possibility that they're Marleyans. But again, I think that the 145th king took his friendly Marleyans with him. And he may have had Marleyans who were already on his side, but there may have been some that joined him when the Titan War broke out. So that's my first prediction. So my second prediction is about Reiner. I think that his family was a Titan household. I think they're the ones who used to have the armor Titan. I think that his mother probably knows this, and I think this might be the reason why she acts the way she does. I think she's probably trying to get the armor Titan back into the Braun household. That could be the reason why Rainer's father is a Marleyan. We don't really know the relationship between Rainer's mom and Rainer's father, because Rainer's father seems to think that Rainer's mom might have it out for him. Well, I don't think that that part is really going to get explained, but I do think that they were a Titan household. Now, I don't know if they were one of the Titan households that sided with the Marleyans originally, but they could have been a Titan household who was left behind, who may have, well, maybe not necessarily left behind. They may be a Titan household who didn't exactly agree with the 145th king, but didn't necessarily want to side with Marley, so they may have eventually ended up staying in the Marleyan Empire, not necessarily out of their own will, but it could have been kind of sort of what happened, and so they may have not been able to keep their Titan. They may have been considered partially untrustworthy by the Marleyans. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if we're actually going to get much information about this, but I do believe we're going to find out that his family was a Titan household. 3. Marley knows about the Fritz coordinate situation. Yeah. They have to know, because one thing that really has stood out to me for a long time about this series is that if they're trying to catch Ian because he has the coordinate, who are they going to feed him to? They need to be able to feed him to like a Fritz or something. So it's likely that Marley has like a Fritz or part of the Fritz family on their side. There's a possibility that the Fritz didn't all leave with the 145th king. And oh boy, I don't know what happened here. That wasn't supposed to be there. So they obviously have a plan of who they're going to give the coordinate to. I doubt that we're going to let Ian keep it. I'm not sure if Annie, Bertold, and Reiner quite knew who the Marley were going to feed him to. And what's strange about this is that for a while it seemed kind of like they didn't know anything about this whole coordinate in the Will situation, but recently in the comics it's been kind of showing that they do know more about it. So I'm a little confused on this situation. But it brings me to my next prediction, and this one is kind of wild. So this one is about Diana and Zeke. So I actually think that Diana might be the reason why Zeke ended up telling on his parents. And I kind of think that Diana and her family may not necessarily be loyal to the Eldian Restoration group. Because I'm thinking that any Fritz who were left on the mainland probably didn't side with the 145th King, and they're probably not really happy with the Walled Nation either. So she could have been the person who they were planning on feeding their coordinate to. Because I assume Marley probably wanted that coordinate for a while. There's also a possibility someone else in her family could be the one who was going to get the coordinate. The plan was undone by the owl because I'm thinking that maybe they weren't actually going to throw her off the wall, or there's a possibility they were going to throw her off the wall, but that's not what Marley originally wanted, and she just ended up down there because like part of Marley wanted was like in agreement with her because she was in league with part of Marley, but then certain people didn't get information about the fact that she was on their side. But whatever the plan originally was, I think the Owl's actions pretty much ended up getting her killed. Now, I was going to say that the Fritz who didn't join the 145th King to the island might actually be the Tybers. So she may be a Tiber, but she still calls herself Fritz. I'm really suspicious of her. I'm really suspicious of the Eldian restoration effort. I'm suspicious of the owl, but I'm more suspicious of her family, her and her family. I think it's pretty obvious that Annie's going to end up working with Ian, Mikasa, and Eren. She doesn't care which side she's on, but I do think that she will probably like to see the war come to the end. And I think when she talks to them, they're probably going to sweet talk her with like trying to end the war because that's what they really want. So I think she'll just join them when she gets out of her crystal. Marley spies inside the walls. This was something that kind of came and went. I don't really know if we're going to get much information on this besides maybe another mention. But I don't think they're part of the nobility. I don't think any Marleyans inside the walls whose families had been there since the 145th King made the place were spies from Marley. I don't think they were spying on the warriors either. I think they maybe have been long-term spies who were trafficking information and outside into the walls and also back to Marley. They could be double agents, but even though they're most likely were sent there for by the Marleyans, they may be kind of working for the Tybers. There's also a possibility that they're spies for the Tybers exclusively and are not reporting information to Marley. So the 145th King's will being a tease. This is something that really has bugged me. It started to bother me when Rod Reese was killed because I feel like that arc really just did not like completely explain what the 145th King really wanted. And I think if we had got more information on what he actually believed, his actual, motivation, it could have I think it's going to ruin some sort of like plot twist that's coming up. And I think his will really is going to affect the end of the story. And I think that it was held off for a reason. I don't like the fact that it was held off because I feel like this whole situation with the 145th King's will is just not going to play out well in the story. I think it's probably going to lead to a possible bad ending for Attack on Titan. And I feel like if they were actually able to like explain like his will and the reason for his will in the beginning, maybe the ending of this manga the ending might be more accepted. It might be something that people saw coming more. It could be something that people are more comfortable with. I just feel like it's being held because of some big shocker, but like I think we kind of already know what it is, but I think it's just going to be more of a pain when the main characters start to find out what it is, and it also could cause the characters to end up doing stuff that they probably wouldn't normally be doing if they had known about the 145th King's 145th King's will sooner. And I really, this is something I'm going to talk about when I get to the possible endings of the Attack on Titan manga. So number 8 is the Eluding Empire is still there. I have a sneaking suspicion that Marley is ruled by the Tibers. I don't know if the higher ups in Marley know this or not, but I have a feeling that it's either a situation where the king of the king is the Tibers and the Marley military doesn't know this except for the higher ups, or it's a possibility it could be some sort of strange joint rule. But I believe that the Marley citizens don't know about who rules their country, and I think they don't know who rules their country because they don't really understand the Titan War and they don't really know how to end it. Like, they don't really know what's going on. They don't really know much about the 145th King and they don't know why he left. I don't think that the world in general knows too much about what happened between Marley and the 145th King either. So I think that this is probably going to be a pretty big plot point, but I don't know how this is going to really factor too much into like the very end of this manga though. But I think this is definitely very likely. Zeke's plan isn't to obtain a coordinate. Yes, I know that Zeke is royalty. I know that he is someone who can use the coordinate. But I have a feeling that he is not planning on taking the coordinate for himself. I think he knows that he's going to be bound by the will. I think he has figured out that the Marleyan government is planning on doing something with the coordinate that doesn't necessarily involve using it how it's assumed to be used. I think he knows that there might be something more serious going on inside of the country. And I think in general, Zeke is not like some people are thinking that Zeke might be planning on trying to destroy all the aliens. I don't think he's looking to try and destroy all the aliens. I think he may be looking for a way to actually just find to get rid of the Titans. And I think he also could be possibly trying to do something with the coordinate, maybe just get rid of the coordinate, and maybe the Titans won't be as dangerous as they are, or I don't know. He might be actually trying to find out what happened to the original Ymir. He might be trying to do something with that. I think he's going to maybe stash the coordinate maybe in some other country or something like that. I don't think he's planning on taking it for himself, and I don't think he's planning on taking it back to Marley. The truth about the coordinate, even though I said that it's very likely that Marley has some Fritz still within the mainland that they're planning on feeding the coordinate to. I think they know about the will. I think they know that there's another way about the will, and I really don't think that they're like bound to having to give it to a Fritz. They may have a Fritz in reserve, but they probably are planning on giving it to someone else if, like, let's say the last Fritz got killed, which, as far as we know, the last Fritz on the mainland did get killed. So I think that I think this is not necessarily going to be a shocker. I think that the story is kind of leading to this because I mean, really, we do have to figure out what Marley was planning on doing with the coordinate in the first place. Okay, now we're in the negative predictions. So these are the things that we won't be getting or things that we will be getting that we probably don't want. So the first one is going to be we're not going to get any information on the Ackermans. I don't think that we're going to be getting too much information on Titan Science. I think that point in the story where we could have examined that has passed. I think that we're not going to be revisiting that, especially with Rod dead. I don't think we're going to be talking about, the life during the early wall period, like who were the people who were there. I think it was the whole Ackerman thing was basically only created to explain the Ackerman powers, and it's really cheap. I don't think that's something that should have happened in this story. I think people are probably going to realize that we're never going to get this information eventually. 2, we're not going to get any information on Annie's dad. Now, this one is probably going to disappoint a lot of people because people are thinking that maybe Annie's dad has some other agenda because he's always come across as being very mysterious and they don't seem to be in Liberia or the area where the rest of the Eldians are in Marley. So people were also starting to think that maybe he was part of the Tibers or something like that. I don't think there is enough time left in Attack on Titan to go into that storyline. There's also a possibility that the plot in Attack on Titan has changed besides just the ending, and any significance that Annie's dad may have had in the story originally may not be there anymore. There's also a possibility that he just wasn't important anyway, because there's a lot of things in this story that seem like they are important, but then they never get addressed. So maybe they were just like a throwaway or something. I don't know, but I just get the feeling we're not going to get any more information on him. Okay, the Skinless Titans. We're not going to get a good reason for them. I don't think that there was ever a reason as to why some Titans were skinless and some weren't. I know some people were starting to think that maybe they're Haldians because of the recent reveal for Reiner. I think that was a good theory, that they're half Eldians. If I was writing a story, I would have definitely put that in there, but I don't believe I don't actually believe that there was a reason for having Skinless Titans, so I'll just, yeah. 4, the Abnormals. So, I don't think they were really going to get an explanation for the Abnormals because I think we missed the point in the story where we could have had an explanation for them. I think back before Annie was revealed to be a Titan, back when they had captured those 2 Titans, that would have been a good time to start talking about Abnormals. In fact, it probably would have been a good time to talk about Abnormals up to the basement reveal, because really when we got into the arc that revealed the basement, we pretty much lost any and all opportunities to go back and talk about some of the finer points just with that island, just stuff that's on the island, just with Titans in general, just about their society. All of it's pretty much gone, and we're not likely to have another investigative arc that's about investigating things within the city or on the island. Also, they pretty much killed all the Abnormals, killed all the Titans in general, so I don't think we're going to get any information. 5, the source of Titans and the deal that Ymir made. A lot of people still seem to believe that this is going to turn out to be science. I 100% believe that this is not going to turn out to be a scientific situation. I do believe that when we get the explanation, it's going to piss people off. I believe it's going to be heavily esoteric. I believe it's going to affect the ending. Maybe not necessarily in good ways. The best possible effect of having it not be science related is the possibility of having all the Titan powers in one person and then having that person do a crystallization. That's pretty much the only good thing about the Titans not being science related, because Titans possibly being magic or actually involving the devil or possibly involving some sort of sacrifice, because there are some things in the Attack on Titan manga that point to the Titan powers being maybe some sort of contract. Yeah, unless the devil shows up, I don't really see a way of being able to like get rid of the Titans other than crystallization if this is not science related. If it was science related, there's possibly you could create a cure for the Titans. I don't think that I 100% believe that it's not going to be science, and it's going to probably lead to a harsh ending. Number 6, Ymir's behavior. So this is about Ymir going to Marley. So I think that the story is probably going to avoid revisiting that section. We're not going to get any closure on exactly why she decided to do it. We're not going to find out if Marcel's memories influence her actions. The only thing that we're basically going to be stuck with is the guilt explanation. I think there's more to it. I mean, how should I put this? I think that if she was a real person, there would be more to it. But in this fictional story, I don't think we're going to get about any better explanation. 7. No two types of Eldians. So there's some confusion in the fandom right now, given the latest chapter, which was 96. And so some people are thinking about there could be possible Eludians who are not subjects of Ymir. Maybe there's. I think this would only make sense if the people who can turn into Titans were direct descendants of Ymir, and then Ymir was part of a group of people who were called Eldians, but the rest of the Eldians didn't end up getting the powers. We don't know exactly how that works, but I don't think it was meant to imply that there were two different types of Eldians. I think that statement was meant to imply that there were Marleyans inside the walls. People who think that there are two different types of Eldians are probably assuming that the two different types of Eldians became an issue during the Titan War. Also, this is just something that would be unlikely in this story. It would be unlikely to have two types in this story because I don't think we're going to be diving too deep into like what was going on before Ymir Fritz. So this is something that I don't actually think is a thing. 8. The Eastern Sea Clan. I don't think they're going to be important to the story. Again, we're not going to know too. I don't think we're going to get any history on that island before the 145th king got there. I don't think we're going to get any information about their early life of the walls. And also, I don't think it's going to be explained when they start talking about the Titan War incident. So I think this is just something that's going to kind of just sit there. This is a personal grievance of mine. So number 9 is about Rod Reese and his redemption. So a lot of people hate him. A lot of people don't believe him. A lot of people think he was a liar. But I think he had a lot of information about Paradise. I think he had quite a information about the nobility. I think he knew that there were non-Eldians inside of the walls. I think he could have known a bit about Titan science. I think he held a lot of secrets in his desperation to try and break the 145th king's will just was not really acknowledged by the rest of the cast to the level that it should have been acknowledged. Because I think if they really, paid attention to his desperation, they would have maybe tried to have gone in a different direction with him. What I'm saying is, it wasn't possible to save him after he turned himself into a Titan. But there's more information they could have gotten from this guy. There's so much more that could have been done with this character. There are so many mysteries that could have been answered. And I'm just not really happy with how things went. And I think the Attack on Titan fandom just does not realize how important of a character he could have been and what information he actually holds. Number 10, we won't get outside perspectives on the Eldians versus the Marley. I believe that if we started getting outside perspectives, it would have to change this story's narrative, and it would probably change how things would end. Because I think if we started getting outside perspectives, it might. Let's just put it this way: this is one story where a character's ignorance of a situation helps to drive the plot. The more a character starts to find out the truth about what's going on, the more likely certain things just won't occur. Certain things won't happen. The more likely we're more likely to get a good or peaceful ending the more characters start to find out the truth about what happened. And so I think that in this story we're just gonna keep certain characters in the dark. And so if we started having perspectives from outside countries, certain people would no longer be ignorant of what's going on, and we would probably start to see we would start to see things move in a different direction. We would start to see certain things happening that we're not going to see. Now, let me put it this way. So there was this old anime I think called Barbato or something like that. I think it was made by maybe IG, or people didn't like the way it ended because it didn't end in a conflict. It ended basically with characters talking to each other and a conflict being avoided. I think if we start having characters getting too much information, we're not going to really have this series end with a conflict. I think you may end up ending with nations talking to each other instead. I think just for story reasons, we're not going to get outside perspectives. It would be nice if we got some outside perspectives, but had it done in such a way where the main characters don't get to hear these perspectives. But I don't think we're going to get them. And so I actually have one more negative prediction, and this is the biggest one out there. So this is about 2U in 2,000 years. This secret, or whatever this means, is going to make or break this series. Whatever it is, I don't believe the fandom is going to be happy about it, because I don't think it's going to be using mechanics that people are going to agree with. What I mean is it's a possibility that it is time travel, and a lot of people don't want to hear anything about time travel in the Attack on Titan story. If it's not time travel, it could still be something that's. If it's not time travel, it could still be. It might look like a duck's ass. My Latin is not good, so I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but it might look like a God in the Machine type of an ending. If it's not, it's most likely probably memory time travel, but there's no real explanation as to how that would happen, given the fact that Aaron didn't have the coordinate uh, back when he was a kid, or something like that. Like the timeline doesn't, like the events that happen in the story don't line up with the don't quite line up with the explanation that people are having right now. Besides memory time travel, it could be some situation where there was some kind of memory transfer involving one of the Fritz, because Ian was around what's her name, um Ymir's girlfriend's sister, which is the current queen. So he was around the current queen's sister, and so there's a possibility that she may have been able to like transfer memories to him that came from the original Ymir. So I guess that wouldn't be trying time travel, but that would still be something that I don't think people will really like to see, because we don't really quite know what's going on with the First King's will, and we kind of don't know what was going on with the. We don't know what was going on prior to Grisha's attack on the Fritz family. Like we don't know what was happening with them when they went to the chapel. We just in general don't really know what was going on with the Fritz between the time that Grisha gained the attack Titan and the time that Aaron got the attack Titan, because there's some confusion about like when the Fritz tried to change her name to Reese, and there's just some. I don't know if like, I'm guessing that maybe some of the nobles inside the wall city were aware that something had occurred on Paradise, and that someone from outside of the wall had entered, or something went down. That plot point, that part of the manga hasn't really been explained too much, but I think there might actually be something there, something else going on. Like there's a lot of confusion in this manga right now, but I think that's one of the hairier things in the manga, especially of the recent events, because that is a fairly recent situation. It's just not clear to us. So now let's move on to the ending predictions. There are two possible endings to this story, given the information that we know, but not necessarily given all these predictions that I put up here. So the good ending involves having smart characters, and what could possibly happen is that Eren, Mikasa, and Ian might have awakened Annie and found out more about what was going on there, and also may have found out that the Eldians on there held resentment to the Eldians on Paradise because of some event that occurred during the Titan War. If they find out that there's some conflict between the two groups of Eldians, it may change how they decide to progress the war. They might end up sending spies over to try and find out why they have grievances against the Paradise Eldians. They may try and find out like more political. They may try and find out the political structure of Marley. They also may lead to them getting some information about the Tybers and exactly why they still have the Warhammer Titan and what the Tybers might be up to. So they may end up starting this war very informed as to what exactly is going on with their enemy, which could help to give them a quick win, or at least be able to turn the country. Not necessarily a civil war, but they may end up starting a revolution over there in Marley, and maybe leading to a situation where Marley isn't at war with the Eldians anymore. And I guess they would also have to educate the population of Marley on exactly what actually happened in history. And then they would also have to like try and talk to other nations so that other nations are no longer trying to attack like the Eldians, and maybe try and smooth things over. So there would still be conflict, but it would be smart conflict. It would be conflict with them going in, like knowing what's going on and being able to like handle like some of the potential problems that they may run into, and also being very aware that the rest of the world does not like Eldians. So that's something that they need to be aware of when they start this conflict. But I don't actually think that this is the ending that we're going to get. I think maybe we may get a tease that this is where it could possibly go, but I don't think this is where it's going to go. There's just nothing in the writing in Attack on Titan that even points in the direction of them going into this conflict. Like educated of like what's been happening. I think what we're going to end up getting is the Grim Reminder. So I think we're going to end up having the Colossal Titan uh, pop over there in Marley and start causing havoc. There are a couple reasons as to why we get this outcome. One outcome could be that they don't get information from Annie. So there's a possibility when Annie wakes up, they decided to have someone eat her. And so they do this before they question her properly. And whoever ends up eating her does not get all the memories, so they don't exactly know what's going on over there. Now, you might wonder, like, why in the world would they have Annie eaten before trying to question her? Well, there's a possibility they don't get her out of her crystal, so they have somebody eat her, which is kind of strange. Or it also could be because there's some sort of argument between Eren and Armin, and this moral disagreement ends up leading to Annie getting eaten before she gets properly questioned. There's also a possibility that they do question her, but because they're having a moral disagreement, they decide to go with the grim reminder instead of, coming into this conflict smart. Also, I believe that if they end up grim remindering Marley, we'll probably start having other countries possibly get involved. And they won't be necessarily coming to Marley's aid. We're going to start getting some impressions. Well, we're probably going to start getting more information about like how these other countries feel about Eldians. This is not how countries feel about the Eldians versus Marley. This is just how they feel about Eldians in general, because they may see Paradise attack on Marley as being Eldian aggression, and so this could set some bad things in motion. And then I also think that this could lead to a situation where we have the Eldians from Paradise versus the Eldians in Mare, because the Eldians in Mare still hold some resentment to the Eldians in Paradise, and so there's a possibility that this could end up leading to an Eldian versus Eldian conflict, with with Marley possibly backing one side. And I don't really know how Marley is going to feel about this conflict, but this could get very ugly very quickly. And I think that Eren is probably going to realize that they've goofed and that they need to quickly adjust their plans and try and turn this ugly situation around. But I don't think that they're going to be in a position to do so, because I think Paradise is generally going to be having some conflict, especially with some of the main characters, and so I think that they're not really going to be able to get the situation under control. And so somebody will probably be noticing that this war is going to lead to like absolute chaos, and both sides could get destroyed, but they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Another thing that I think is going to happen is that this is probably going to be the period where we suddenly get more information about the 145th King's will, and then we're probably going to get more information about the Tybers. And so I think that the new information that we're going to get about the Tybers and the 145th King's will is probably going to like really mess up this conflict. I think it's probably going to make things ooh, we really screwed up. Maybe we shouldn't have attacked right now, or maybe we needed to find this information out first before jumping in here. I think that your revelations of actually like what's going on could really lead to a disaster. I don't know how this is going to play out, because like I have created a prediction about, well, I guess this wasn't really a prediction, but like I have my own theory as to why the 145th King's will was teased and hasn't been fully revealed. But I have a feeling that the reveal of the will, well, I don't have any prediction as to what the actual will is, but I have a bad feeling about it, and I have a feeling that it's going to really affect the Paradise Eldians initiative against Marley very negatively. Um, and so I think that them going into this conflict without knowing about the will and knowing about the Titan War is probably going to lead to disaster. I don't know exactly what the will is, but it's likely to be something that involves like the Eldians and Ymir Fritz, and exactly where the Titan powers come from, or maybe some potential cost of the Titan powers, because there may be like a price to pay or some sort of dark side to having those powers. And I think that that's probably going to play into this. Now, most of the stuff that I've been talking about when it comes to the bad ending has been like involving Paradise and the main cast, but it hasn't really. I haven't really said anything about like what's going to happen with the Warriors. Like I think that a lot of the Warriors are probably going to die before they really find out what the 145th King's will really means. Zeke might actually survive until the will is revealed, because he may already know what it is. But, like, if the will is something bad and he knows what it is, I don't get the feeling that he's planning on, like, taking some sort of drastic action to, like, put an end to the situation. So, maybe if it is something bad, he doesn't know like the full extent of it. But I think that he's one character who of the Warriors who's going to live through this to see what exactly the will meant. He may actually end up finding about what to you and 2,000 years means as well. I don't really know anything about like what's going to happen with the new warriors. I think most of them are going to get killed, but I think maybe a few of them might survive, but I'm not exactly sure what their purpose in the story is going to be. I don't think that Reiner is going to get eaten. Um, I think he's going to end up dying before he gets eaten by any of the new war recruits. And I don't really necessarily believe that he's going to end up siding with Paradise either, but I don't think he's going to stick with Marley. I think that in the end, if they end up doing a grim reminder, it's going to probably end up leading to absolute chaos and lead to a situation that they can't win. But then things are not going to be good for Mare either. And what I'm actually expecting, or what the possible original ending to Attack on Titan might have been, is it could have been a situation where we went in this direction, but then other countries stepped in and they said, you know what, I don't want Mare, I don't want the Elden Empire, we're just going to nuke the place. That could have been the actual original ending. So with this bad ending, I'm pretty sure that we might end up having the Paradise group kind of turning into villains. We might see them hit moral black, while the Warriors end up staying the gray color that they are, and Marley might end up. They haven't necessarily been painted in a good light now, and I don't think the conflict is going to paint them in a good light when it happens, but they might get painted nations have to do what nations have to do to survive type shade of gray. We might still see a situation where other countries get involved and start attacking both sides, but I don't think it's going to end with all Eldians getting killed. So this is the end of my Attack on Titan predictions. When we get to the end of Attack on Titan, maybe I'll revisit this and talk about what I was right about and what I wasn't right about. But you're probably not going to hear any other like anime related stuff